Good evening. The budget day is an expectations-filled day, and some of our expectations are met, and some are obviously not met, because each constituency has its own set of expectation. It's in a complex economy like India, it's never possible to meet everyone's expectations during the annual budget. So some of us may have to wait for the next budget or rest of the year to see how our expectations are met. For me, the most important and heartening announcement was that government has a vision which extends to next 25 years, and which is India at 100. And this vision includes higher economic growth, higher level of growth, as well as inclusive growth. And we are expecting this growth to be enabled by technology, which involves building a digital economy. And we are expecting the government also to play an important role, where the finance minister mentioned, saying public investment should crowd in private investment and not crowd out private investment. And my arguments and research have always shown that public investment is in most cases enabler of private investment, and often public investment leads private, and we create a virtuous cycle. So it was good to see that. Also good to see focus on productivity, particularly productivity in terms of logistics, which is we're targeting to achieve that through national plan called PM Gati Shakti. So I'm hoping that we will see more of that, and we will see much larger investments in logistics, cost efficiency, as well as improvement in time we take to ship things from one place to another. I would have liked to see greater discussion on productivity across the board, which is people and capital productivity. So hopefully maybe next year or during the year we will see some announcements come on that too. And what I saw missing was discussion on innovation. We talked about investing in R&D last year, and we did that nearly after 2 years of announcing a national program for investment in R&D. So therefore, it was a little disappointing in terms of not hearing much on saying are we going to build a national innovation program or launch a national innovation mission. It would have been great to hear something on that, because there are only two ways to grow an economy. We can grow it by growing volume, which means domestic consumption and exports, or we can grow an economy by growing value, producing higher value added goods and services, both for the domestic economy as well as the exports economy. And we currently have an advantage. Our cost of living is low, so we can produce goods and services for advanced economies which are richer, and we still can be competitive in terms of exports. So I was hoping to see that, but unfortunately we didn't see anything being discussed in detail on that front. Then financing of investment was another aspect which the finance minister talked in detail, and there are a couple of good moves there, bringing in specific funds, which is startup supporting funds through NABARD and through other institutions, NIF as well as NABARD. So that was good to see. Then we had no surprises in a way on direct taxes or indirect taxes. A clarification came in terms of direct taxes on long-term capital gains, which is having a cap of 15% across assets. Otherwise, we were discriminating some assets and favoring another. And then there was clarification that cess is not a business expenditure. For those of us who were hoping to see some relief come the way of households, were obviously disappointed because there was no discussion on direct taxes for the households. Particularly, to my mind, it was important to give some relief, either in terms of maximum exemption limit or in terms of increased deductions, because both urban and rural households have been battered due to pandemic and earlier slowdown during the last nearly 3 years. So it has been, and also government has been increasing taxes, particularly on petrol and diesel, and the prices of LPG have also been going up, largely because of taxation and recovery for the producing companies. So it would have been good if we were able to provide some support to the households. And indirect taxation, I won't call it a surprise, but we saw a duty being increased and exemptions being removed from project imports and capital goods import. One way it's good because it will help India become more competitive. Two, but another way it is not good because it will increase the cost of project, uh, capital cost of the projects which we are implementing today. So I guess it's a trade-off which Finance Minister has chosen to make. But from a long run perspective, I would have liked the Finance Minister to focus on helping capital goods sector improve its productivity and produce better products and better capital goods rather than just provide them protection from competition. It's not the wisest thing to do where you just keep adding to the cost and don't have incentive for the uh, producers to improve efficiency or create more value. Right? I would have done it differently. Let's say that way. Then this was important particularly because we now launching a fairly significant capex program. The central government is expecting to spend next year 7.5 lakh crores, which is an increase of 24.5% over the revised budget. Though this change is not wide-ranging, this increase has come largely in road transport, Department of Telecom, and to some extent in railways. Railways is the lowest, just about 20,000 crore. Department of Telecom is 50,000 crore, which is largely BSNL, and then road transport, which is NHAI of almost 90,000 crore. So to me, I hope this money is not used to just refinancing NHAI's debt or repay BSNL's existing debt. It is used to create capacity and capability across the sectors. Right. So to me, I think that's a good idea, and we need to invest here. But hopefully, it's not just refinancing being done by increased allocation, because NHAI we know been struggling a bit, and BSNL has been struggling for a while anyway. Then we have another 1 lakh crore of loans being provided to the states which is linked to reforms in the state and enabling capex at the state level. So that's also it's a decent provision to make. Now it shouldn't happen that the center starts interfering with the states and start forcing reforms in the name of financing capex, because the support which is being made available last year, about 150,000 crores in terms of GST compensation, that's been withdrawn, and this particular amount has been provided for. Right, so that's change in this year. And if I exclude this 1 lakh crore, then the growth in capex is only 15% for the central government. And now the worrisome part on the capex side, central government expenditure side, is that during the current year, which is the revised estimate, we have spent only 50% of what we had budgeted for. We have spent only 2,75,000 crores out of 5,50,000 crore budget. So my expectation is that in the next 4 months, which is December to March, how are we going to manage to spend this, and what kind of impact will it have on the economy? So if we don't spend it, or if the quality of the expenditure is poor, then this money is not going to produce the results which we expect in terms of driving either private sector investment or driving consumption. To me, I think one of the biggest concerns I have by looking at the details in the budget is the level of total expenditure. The growth last year on the total expenditure was about 8.2%, which is revised last year when I say it's current year in fact. And the next year we're expecting the budgeted expenditure to grow by 4.6%. Given that inflation, we will expect the inflation to be around 5% plus. In real terms, there is no real growth in the central government expenditure. And if I exclude, in the current year, if I exclude the payment being made on behalf of Air India for their debt, increase in fertilizer and food subsidy, which is largely driven by either pandemic or increase in international oil prices. The increase in revised budget expenditure is only 3.6%. Right. So 3.6% increase in the current year and an expected 4% increase in the 4.6% increase in the last year doesn't really provide much support for the economy. Right. Particularly economy where household as well as MSMEs have been battered quite badly. Right. And if I remove the food subsidy impact, which is there's some accounting related issues in food subsidy, even then the budgeted increase is only 4.8%. Right. And we're expecting the GDP to grow at 11% and tax revenue to grow at 9.6%. So therefore, planning for an increase in expenditure of 4.8% is not the wisest thing to do to my mind. Particularly when the economy needs it at this stage. Right? Because you're basically saying the central government is playing far less important role in driving economic growth than it was doing in earlier years. Right? And there are two possibilities if we continue to do that. Is that either recovery won't happen as expected or recovery won't be sustainable. And two, our households and MSMEs will deplete their savings or their indebtedness will end up increasing. The consequences of both these situations is that our future growth, which is beyond 23, will naturally become more uncertain. I would have expected the central government to continue investing and raise the level of expenditure, even if our folks are worried about fiscal deficit. 6.9% is not a bad deal at all. Particularly when we know that we need to support the economy, and the government does recognize that. And as a result, what has happened is that agriculture, health, defense expenditure is going up only by 4.6%. Agriculture is going up by 2.5%, and health is only going up by 0.8%. Right. So three of the most important sectors, the expenditure is not increasing. So therefore, we won't be able to build either ability to grow in future or raise consumption. Rural development budget, to my surprise, is turning out to be negative next year. So it's down by 0.3%, and which I think is not the wisest thing to do. Though agriculture economy is doing well, but we still need to invest in the rural sector, particularly capex. Education is receiving a higher amount at 18.5%, which is a good thing to do because during the last 2 years, a large part of our society haven't been able to go to school or college. So we needed to support that. Right. So I think in all, I would say that it is a bit disappointing budget because I would have expected the government to spend a little more and be a little more open to taking a higher fiscal deficit. Because now what we're doing is we're leaving the responsibility for growth on the households and the MSMEs, because that's what the largest part of our economy is. And these two parts of the economy don't have ability to sustain or invest for growth in future. So I guess this is the choice the finance minister has made or the government has made. And my only hope is that MSMEs and households are able to live up to the responsibility which has been assigned to them. Thank you.